A global era has quietly come to a close. Klaus Schwab, the man behind one of the world's most influential institutions, the World Economic Forum, has stepped down after more than 50 years at the helm. For decades, Schwab was the architect of elite diplomacy, global business strategy, and a vision of international cooperation that defined the Davos era. But who was he really? And what does his departure mean in a world rapidly shifting away from the systems he helped shape?
People around the world, regardless of denomination, will take note of this news today. And while a large part of the world is in mourning, another piece of news has just been announced, and Christians, who are attentive to end-time studies, will take special note of this news. World Economic Forum launches search for new chairman as founder, steps down after 55 years. Now the question is, who will be next in line? Because for a lot of people, a lot of Christians, they have been paying attention to the World Economic Forum because of some of the ideals they stand for and advocate. For example,
they made a prediction on what they think is going to happen in 2038 of them, which I think it's important for you to know. Here's some of the predictions. Number one, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. By the way, this is from their website. This is a video they produced. Number two, the U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower. Instead, a handful of countries will dominate.
Now, the reason that Christians are interested in what's going on at the World Economic Forum is because a lot of these ideas being presented lend themselves to what many imagine will be the perfect governing system for the Antichrist when he steps onto the scene. In his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, Klaus Schwab presents notions such as implantable technologies, smart tattoos, and other unique chips which could help with identification and location. Synthetic biology. This is the ability to customize organisms by writing DNA or to edit biology, enabling the creation of genetically modified plants or animals. So who's next to take charge of the WEF? What kind of ideas will they promote? Well, let's take a look.
Very interesting. He says here, within the next century or two, we humans are likely to upgrade ourselves into gods. You could be a god and change the most basic principles of the evolution of life. He says, I titled the book Homo Deus because we really are becoming gods. In the most literal sense possible, we are acquiring abilities that have always been thought to be divine abilities, in particular the ability to create life, and we can do with that whatever we want.
But with the founder of WEF stepping down, well, the person believed to be the next in line is a man named Yuval Harari. There are a lot of theories out there, and a lot of debate surrounding his ideologies. Now, if you Google his name, you'll come across a lot of material that'll give you insight into what sort of ideologies this man will be pushing. Take a look at this. In an article titled, Homo sapiens is an obsolete algorithm, Yuval Noah Harari on how data could eat the world. He introduced a new type of religion called dataism. Here are two extracts worth paying attention to. Humans are merely tools for creating the internet of all things, which may eventually spread out from planet Earth to cover the whole galaxy, and even the whole universe. This cosmic data processing system would be like God. It will be everywhere and will control everything, and humans are destined to merge into it.
Born in 1938 in Ravensburg, Germany, Klaus Schwab came of age in the shadow of a war-torn Europe. He trained as both an engineer and economist, eventually earning degrees from ETH Zurich and Harvard. But it was in 1971 that Schwab made his boldest move, founding what was then called the European Management Forum. Its goal: to create a neutral platform for leaders from business, government, and academia to collaborate on the biggest global issues. That forum would evolve into the World Economic Forum, and it would become one of the most powerful gatherings on Earth. Schwab himself wasn't immune to controversy. In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, he launched the idea of the Great Reset, a vision for rebuilding the global economy in a fairer, greener, and more inclusive way. It was intended to be hopeful, but it quickly became a lightning rod. Critics and conspiracy theorists accused Schwab and the WEF of using the pandemic to push a top-down globalist agenda. Entire internet subcultures emerged around this theory, despite the WEF's insistence that the Great Reset was not a sinister plot, but a call to rethink capitalism's future. But perhaps the most curious moment in Schwab's resignation wasn't the decision itself. It was the timing. His announcement came on April 21st, 2025, the exact same day Pope Francis passed away. Two towering figures of the modern era, both stepping away from power, one by choice, one by fate.
Well, what are the chances, my friends, that Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum resigns, and then immediately we also see WEF globalist Pope Francis, who was working with Klaus Schwab to form a one-world government, suddenly died on the same day, and the WHO backs down. It's all very strange. So are the globalists on the ropes right now and collapsing, or are they restructuring as we speak, sort of behind the scenes? We wanted to bring in Mel Kay. She's the author of Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, One Citizen at a Time. And Mel has been following what the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab has been doing for years. Excellent reporting on this subject. And we thought, who better than Mel to bring on and talk about this? Mel, great to see you.
Great to see you. Coincidences, I guess.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences, but it's so strange. The Pope dies, and then suddenly also we hear that Klaus Schwab is resigning, the WHO backing down. Now, we have reported, and I'm sure you have as well, for almost about a year now that Klaus was preparing to step down, and he was going to be sort of handing the keys over to his family, basically, right? So they're going to kind of keep it in the family. But it's just that the timing seemed very, very strange. It seemed almost immediate. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, I agree with what you said in the intro. I think that they're reorganizing. I think that they have gotten far too negative press on the people that have been representing them for a long time. And I would keep an eye on the banking institutions behind them, because what is really happening, in my opinion, is that by any means necessary, they want to keep the structure that was above them, basically the IMF, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, all the way up to the Bank of International Settlements, are the partners of these United Nations tentacles and the NGOs. So they're basically at this point doing whatever they need to do to, I think, continue down the path of their plans for Agenda 2030, while at the same time looking like they're going to change their image. But the people you should keep an eye on are the ones that run what I call the parent company. And that would be people like Larry Fink and Mark Carney and Merz, that just is going to be probably put in Germany. These are all people that created the EU, which is essentially Davos and the government wing of Davos. And it appears to me that they are reacting, A, to Trump's tariffs, and B, to their own lack of the ability for them to go forward without America. So we do have to realize that I think it's really a change of the narrative, which is they wrote the great narrative, so that's what they do, rather than the end of the globalists. But certainly there is a shakeup in their world. Exactly. And don't forget, the global public infrastructure that was built by the UN and the World Economic Forum, with a lot of players that were involved in building the social credit score and the technate that is China, are very invested in that spreading throughout the world. So, you know, the hard part with everyone that was very pro-Trump, Trump won, and it was like we won. And I was thinking, well, we didn't win until we dismantle this globalist, technocracy that has been built for us. That was Agenda 2030, the 17 development goals, the whole climate emergency, which is all about basically capturing all natural resources and humanity in general in the hands of this small, elitist group of global public-private partner stakeholders. We are at a place where that is the battle. The battle right now is that they have the technology set up. They have all of that. And my questions, when people come out and they say, well, if Trump's recommending Real ID, it can't be bad. They didn't rewrite the Real ID Act in the last few months. This goes all the way back to 9/11, and it wasn't passed multiple times. And now the question is, because we have all the tech pros, up there, we have Larry Ellison and we have Sachs and we have, Musk and all of them. Well, they are part of the global public infrastructure with the satellites and the surveillance and the Palantir. So the problem is we can't be too pro anything that's thrown at us to mean safety or security or stability. Right now, we're kind of like a world that's in one of those glass, things you shake at Christmas, and all the snow's all over the place, and we don't know where it's going to land. And that's why the American people have to pay very close attention to what are you walking into, and are you asking the right questions? Because as we know, data has replaced, and this is worldwide, certainly up to the UN World Economic Forum, folks, data has replaced oil and money. So again, where's this data going? Who has access to the real ID? Is this also on the global public infrastructure? Because the same guys that are, behind this have been behind everything else with the World Economic Forum. And then you have two big World Economic Forum people entering in Germany and probably in Canada.
This overlap didn't go unnoticed. It set off a wave of speculation online. Some viewed it as a symbolic end to an era of globalism and moral leadership, while others spun more conspiratorial takes, suggesting there was something more coordinated beneath the surface. Whether coincidence or cosmic timing, the dual exits sent a shockwave through institutions that many see as pillars of the modern world order. Now at 87 years old, Schwab has stepped aside. His resignation signals more than just a change in leadership. It's a symbolic transition, a potential turning point for how we approach global dialogue and governance. The WEF is already undergoing structural changes, moving toward a more distributed model, with regional platforms and new leadership initiatives. Whether that's enough to maintain relevance in a fast-changing world remains to be seen. What's next for Davos without Schwab? Some believe the WEF will adapt and remain a key player in global affairs, especially on emerging challenges like climate migration, AI regulation, and cyber diplomacy. Others think the forum's time has passed, that the future lies in grassroots networks, digital forums, and decentralized problem-solving. As Klaus Schwab steps back, the world he helped design stands at a crossroads. Globalism is facing unprecedented backlash. Democracies are polarized, economies are fragmented, and yet the need for cross-border collaboration has never been greater. Perhaps that's the irony of Schwab's legacy. He created the very thing people now question, a global table where the world's elite talk about the rest of us. Love him or hate him, Schwab's departure is a big deal. He wasn't just a behind-the-scenes coordinator, he was a symbol of an era. And now, with his exit, we're left to ask, what kind of global conversation will we have next? Who gets a seat at the table now? And what happens when the world no longer speaks with one voice? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.